Evening, welcome to Live from Shed 3. Tonight I'm going to be singing Never Be Defeated, my album from 2015 that tells the stories of the men and women of the community around Hatfield, Maine back in the miners' strike of 84-85. It's a set of songs that are very dear to me because the people who these songs are about are very dear to me. And throughout the night I'm going to be telling the stories of Mick Lanigan, of Les Moore, of Harry Arl, of Tony Clegg, of Sheena Moore, Will Moore, people that I'll mention along the way, and people who are absolutely fantastic. And this is dedicated to them and to every miner who stayed out for 12 months in solidarity, and you deserved better. The gig forms a part of the virtual Orgreave rally that I hope some of you tuned into earlier on today. It was fantastic listening to the speakers, genuinely inspirational. So a big shout out to everybody who took the time to watch that and to interact and to speak there. It was brilliant to hear, especially overjoyed to hear Eileen and the Shrewsbury 24 campaign finally on the route to some justice 47 years into that campaign, right? That is phenomenal. But if that's what it takes for working people to get justice, that's what it takes, and there's some inspiration to all of us there, you know. Right, I'm not gonna bang on too much about the miners' strike itself, because I was 14 at the time, right? The reason it means so much to me is that it was my kind of political awakening. I first started thinking about politics and about class politics because of the miners' strike, and so it's sort of like I treasure that because it set me on the road, you know. I'm not going to pretend I was there. I'm not going to pretend anything other than I'm telling the stories of some people whose stories need telling. And that's what this record was all about to begin with. I've heard the miners' strike described as the last stand of the working class, and we'll have a look at that later on. But one thing's for sure, when Thatcher picked that fight, and let's be clear, she did pick that fight. When she picked that fight, she took on the biggest, hardest, strongest, most militant trade union this country had ever seen, knowing that if she could defeat the NUM, she could probably defeat the entire trade union movement. And to be honest, since 1985, I'm a proud trade unionist, but we've been fighting rearguard actions since then. We've been fighting things getting taken away from us rather than going on the offensive and clawing some of it back, and that is down to what happened in a miners' strike. You can lay it firmly at that doorstep. There are exceptions, of course there are. I'm a proud member of the Bakers Union, they'll take on anyone, but by and large we've never really recovered the strength that we had pre-1985. Right, I think enough of you have assembled, so I'm going to sing. To understand the ferocity of what went on in that strike, you kind of have to understand what it meant to communities. This wasn't just jobs that she was threatening to take away. This was an entire way of life, you know. Sons had followed fathers for generation after generation after generation down pits, and they lived in houses. The only reason them houses were built were those pits. Miners' daughters married miners' sons and had miners' kids. It was in the DNA of the community. And when someone comes along and threatens to wipe your entire existence, everything you've ever known, everything you planned on being, off the face of the earth, you'd fight and all. Probably as hard as you possibly could. So what we're doing, we're coming in at the strike ballot. See, when she picked that fight in the spring of '84, the catalyst was the announced closure of Cottonwood Colliery. It set into play a series of individual strike ballots up and down the land, and most pits voted to come out on strike. There were exceptions, and we shall deal with those later, but by and large that was the catalyst for the start of the miners' strike. So here we are at that moment. This is called Coal Knocked Door. My granddad always told me was Cole that built this town. He put food on the table, he kept the rent paid down. My family all were miners, he filled me up with pride. The first day that I followed down that building at their side, he said, Cole, not though we're a mining town here, Cole's a community. Cole, not though we're a mining town here, and without it, what I weigh. My granddad always told me, when night times come along, that on our own we're nothing, but the union makes us strong. He said, Cole, not though we're a mining town here, Cole's a community. Cole, not though we're a mining town here, and without it, what I weigh. Now there's closures coming, votes cast, they call us out. Mary nods and whispers, what we ain't got, we do without. My granddad always told me, you'll know when it's your time to stand up and be counted, and don't cross no picket line. He said, Cole, not though we're a mining town here, Cole's a community. Cole, not though we're a mining town here, and without it, what I weigh. Without it, what I weigh. Right. I mentioned that not all the pits came out. The bulk of that, as anybody will tell you, was in Nottinghamshire and Leicestershire. I know that a bunch of striking miners just spat at the floor when I said those counties, but you know. In the first days and weeks of the strike, Yorkshire pickets from Wales, pickets from Scotland, pickets from Kent, travelled up to picket those collieries that were still working, and you know, with some limited success in the first days and weeks, trying to convince Notts miners to come out on strike. It's not fair to criticise them all. There's a good quarter to a third of Notts miners stayed loyal to the NUM. And in Leicestershire there were 30 stayed loyal to the union, the dirty 30, and full massive respect to them and their families, because they endured worse than anyone. But this song is set on a picket line outside a Notts colliery in the first days of the strike. It's called Solidarity. Turn that car around, lads, or is it sod you, Jack? 'Cause your pit turns a profit, would ya stab us in the back? One out, all that wins it, and it's all our jobs, you said. 'Cause you're not just digging coal here, you're digging your own grave. Show some solidarity, show some solidarity, show some solidarity, and we win. We win. Turn that car around, lads. It's not how it should be. What happens to my brother? Well, it happens to me. One out, all that wins it. So I'll ask you one more time to come out now and join us. And don't cross this picket line. Show some solidarity, show some solidarity, show some solidarity, and we win. We win. Solidarity, show some solidarity, show some solidarity, and we win. We win. Okay. This is the first time in the album that I really struggled, because I wrote 2 songs about the women's experiences in the strike, and on the album Rebecca Findlay sings them both, and she does an absolutely amazing job. And you know, normally if I perform this album, Rebecca's there on fiddle and on vocal duties, and we can swap and give me a rest a little bit while she takes over and sort of nails it, and I kind of just, you know, pretend, you know. No, so basically this is a bit of a tricky ask, but then I did demo these songs for her, so it's just a case of going back to that. So I'm gonna sing the first one called Standing By My Man. Now I wanted to write these songs because there was an interesting an interesting thing that Thatcher thought that she could appeal to the women on gender. You know, she thought that they would side with her because she was a woman, and she also thought that that they would nag the men back to work the longer the strike went on. She thought that money would be the driving force there, that money would make them force the husbands back down a pit. Now, there's 2 things that she got wrong there. But it is quite interesting, because we live in an age where identity politics is kind of all the rage, and that kind of assumption that women would side with her on gender is one of the pitfalls of identity politics right there, you know. But you know, miners' families, miners' wives instinctively knew that you had to put your class identity before you put your gender identity, otherwise you were all scuppered. And there's a lesson in that, you know. Yeah, of course we have to fight for our individual identities, because we have individual needs and individual problems within a society. So policy has to be worked out, and things have to be done. But at the end of the day, you cannot put that before you put a class identity, otherwise we get beat, because the only reason we can win is because we present numbers and the only time we have numbers is when we move as a class. Now, it was instinctive to miners' wives, and it should be instinctive to the rest of us, but there's certainly a lesson in it. But the other thing I've noted is that that Thatcher used to refer to herself as the Iron Lady. The Iron Lady, you know. She never met Sheena Moore. I was 12 years old the last time, but the laws have all moved on. The striking family gets nothing, and even less when it's gone. She'll rip the hat from this country. There's nothing more to this town than bricks in the middle of nowhere, and a pit that she's closing down. You can get 6 cups from a tea bag. You can grow on a windowsill. We'll eat together on Sundays, spread out the Lucky Bell. There's nothing much in this bank book, but I'll stretch it as far as I can. I'll show her who's the Iron Lady. I'm standing by my man. I always ask for the cheap cuts, like every house on the street. It's half a pound of gristle to half an ounce of meat. When the kids complain that they're hungry, I tell them we'll eat when we win. Then I give them what's on my plates, 'cause I'd rather starve than give in. You can get 6 cups from a tea bag. You can grow on a windowsill. We'll eat together on Sundays to spread out the Lucky Bell. There's nothing much in this bank book, but I'll stretch it as far as I can. I'll show her who's the Iron Lady. I'm standing by my man. I'll show her who's the Iron Lady. I'm standing by my man. Right. From impersonating a woman to impersonating a police officer. I'm told that's a crime. But, you know. Should always follow the maxim that I try to tell anybody who's playing up that way. Never behave like a twat in front of a songwriter. But this song was inspired by a loan of a video by Will Moore. He lent me a video that had been made of a documentary made by a German film company who travelled around with striking miners at the time. Obviously the documentary was never shown over here, but it was very revealing in what it showed you, that obviously the British media weren't. And this song is basically what happened in the clampdown to stop miners travelling south, travelling north and travelling east to picket the Nottinghamshire coalfields. There was roadblocks set up by police, and they basically stopped any car that had more than one bloke in there. And if you got stopped, you got turned around. If you might find that one of your headlights got kicked through, or all kinds of things might have been found wrong with your car. If you were arrested, there was 4 of you in your car. 4 of you would probably end up at 4 different police stations to make it really difficult for you to get back again. And the thing that they were stopping blokes for was suspicion that they might be about to cause a breach of the peace. So think about that for a minute. You've been arrested for a crime you haven't committed yet. And they were charged with obstructing a police officer in line of his duties, which is ironic given that they were obstructing striking workers in line of their duties. So I'm impersonating a police officer for the cause here. It's not a comfortable position to be in. Don't think I take this role with any relish, but it needs doing from the first person, I think, this song, because it's more evil that way. This is called Doing My Duty, The Enemy Within. Where you going, lads? Is that right? I'm gonna ask you to turn around, and if you're smart then you'll heed that advice and clear off back to your mining town. I have reason to believe that you'll be causing a breach of the peace, and I'll arrest you, and this is a beauty, for obstructing me doing my duty. No, sir, picketing isn't a crime, least it isn't one yet. Still I'm loving this overtime, while you lots are drowning in debt. I have reason to believe you'll be causing a breach of the peace, and I'll arrest you, and this is a beauty, for obstructing me doing my duty. You can see that you're outnumbered here, so turn that car round and move it. I'm sure you've all seen the lads who said no, and have the stitches to prove it. I have reason to believe you'll be causing a breach of the peace, and I'll arrest you, and this is a beauty, for obstructing me doing my duty, for obstructing me doing my duty. See, my job's to protect and to serve, but only the deserving. And my orders come right from the top as to who I'm protecting and saving. I have reason to believe you be causing a breach of the peace, and I'll arrest you, and this is a beauty for obstructing me doing my duty, for obstructing me doing my duty was only doing my duty was only doing my duty was only doing his duty, he swore. But then where have we had that before? Right, thankfully I don't have to do that anymore. Right, this brings us on to the kangaroo courts, who were farming massive numbers of miners through, arrested on picket lines for ridiculous trumped up charges. I've got Bev Trounce to thank for this song, a brilliant book, From a Rock to a Hard Place. If you haven't read that, get it, because Bev's writing's brilliant. There's some fantastic first-hand accounts in there. It's a fab book. But in there, it was one of the striking miners was describing just how overrun the courts were trying to process people, and the temptation to give a false name must have been pretty great. So that set the cogs off a winding, and so I wrote this song, imagining that situation. It's called Your Honour, I Swear. Your Honour, I swear, Your Honour, I swear that I'll never pick it again. My word is as good as that policeman's there, and I'm an honourable man like this end. When the union they ask if I'm in, no, I'll say I won't climb in a car at the break of the day. You won't catch me near pits down Nottingham way, 'cause I'll never pick it again. Your Honour, I swear, Your Honour, I swear that I'll never pick it again. Oh, I'm a changed man now, I promise you, sir. And there's two things I've learned in me sen. When defending my job, it's your peace that I breach. And then there's that lesson a truncheon can teach. That's to move fast enough to stay out of its reach. Oh, I'll never pick it again. Your Honour, I swear, Your Honour, I swear that I'll never pick it again. And my word is as good as your policeman say, and I'm an honourable man like this end. But it's the rich who inherit the earth, not the meek. You get laid off in life, turning the other cheek. Yeah, and just like I said when I stood here last week, I'll never pick it again. Right, Harry, if you're watching, I made it to the end, so you know, none of that laughter. A couple of years ago, Paul Heaton, who had been a supporter of the Hatfield Brigade back in the day before he was famous, he played a gig at the Pit Club with Jackie Abbott and the band. It's kind of a thank you, because Paul's always cited the Hatfield Brigade as being the political spark that fired up the songs that we all know and love now, you know. And so he did this show that absolutely rammed the Pit Club to the rafters, you know, as you might expect, you know. And I was given the great honour of opening the show, right? So there I am, and Anybody who's ever opened for a really famous artist will understand this. What you're doing is you're looking out across a sea of faces who are all looking back at you with the same expression on their face, and that expression says this: will you fuck off and get Paul Eaton on? That's kind of like that's the sort of the lot of the support act to famous people. It's a particularly tricky thing to do, and so I finished my show and loved every second of it, you know, and then I kind of got Mick Lanigan's walking stick in me back, prodding me back out on stage for a wholly undeserved encore, I might add. It's pushing me back on the stage. Sing your honour, I swear. Sing your honour, I swear, Joe. So I'm kind of forced back in front of a bunch of people going, oh, not another song before Paul Eaton comes on, for God's sake. And then I sing a song that I've just sung, that I hadn't sung in best part of a year, and rehearsed for longer than that, and I get into the middle of the third verse, and my brain just freezes, right? No idea what line comes next. I'm looking out across this sea of faces, all still wanting me to bugger off, you know? And then right across the back, standing a foot higher than the rest of the crowd, I see Harry Arl's head, with this expression on his face, this massive grin, and this glint in his eye that I could see from a full 30 yards away. And do you know what? When I close my eyes at night, that's the expression I see. I'm scarred, honest. I need therapy. It's not an easy place to be. But anyway, I've laid that hoodoo to rest, Harry Arl. I remembered it. But anyway, Mara, this is for you. And for everybody else who stood in front of Orgreave Corking Plant on the 18th of June 1984. The whole reason we've assembled today for the virtual Orgreave rally and for this gig. The fight for justice continues. You'll know the story of the Battle of Orgreave. If you don't, look up the Orgreave Truth and Justice Campaign website and arm yourself with information. Suffice to say, 95 miners were arrested, a lot of whom were badly beaten. They waited a long time on trial for trumped up charges, and when those charges reached the courts, they were immediately thrown out because the police had fiddled with the evidence against them. Every single one of the supposedly individual police statements was worded in exactly the same way. There had been collusion in higher offices to jail miners, to take away the confidence of the pickets. And, you know, it doesn't take a genius to see the pattern there, does it? A collusion among the upper echelons of South Yorkshire Police to change a narrative, to alter the truth. They did that again, not for fat 95 men, but for 96 football fans 5 years later. Orgreave was a practice run, and there's some serious questions to answer about who ordered that. And I totally agree with them. No justice, no peace, and it's their call. This is called Summer Fields and Riot Shoes. Summer fields and riot shields on 18684. Horseback truncheon wielding madman knocked me to the floor. And two more told me all I need to know about the law. Summer fields and riot shields on 18684. TV crews make up the news and edit to proclaim striking miners, violent thugs declared a national shame. Bend a new agenda, cause the truth is just a game. TV crews make up the news, and guess who's in the frame? Coppers staring, waving £10 notes up in the air, taunting lads still on haunted by the vision of despair. The kids they left the breakfast table, starving, hungry stare. Coppers sneering, waving £10 notes up in the air. Summer fields and riot shales on 18684. 15 stitches in my head, a message from the Lord. She will stop nothing now, and this is all I want. Summer fields and riot shales on 18684. Summer fields and riot shales on 18684. Right, I'm going back to the women here, because the journey of a lot of them was from the kitchen sink to the lecture theatre, and it was a phenomenal achievement what it did. The absolute warriors. The Hatfield main banner has them all depicted. All our images are all on it. It's a superb piece of work, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. They started the strike miners' wives, and they finished it absolute tigers on the picket line. They would stand in front of the men because the police would have to wade through them to arrest their husbands. It was like a protective line, and they would sing there, and they would taunt the coppers. And the song has an ironic title. It's called "They Can't Do That to Me." I mean, they most certainly could, and they most certainly did. Some of the testimony from police stations from women who were arrested and shoved in the back of vans would make your toes curl. From completely unwarranted strip searches to being left in cells with no toilet facilities, to humiliate them, and it was an absolute travesty and a breach of their human rights, an absolutely disgusting treatment. And this is a song that's a tribute to every single one of the women against pit closures for what they did, for what they went through, and for what they represent. There we go, impersonating a woman again and making an habit of this. Started out when he came home with stitches in his head. They chased him down and they beat him and left him there for dead. At first I wept for my weakness, then saw strength in that, you see. They could chase and catch and beat a man, but they can't do that to me. I went to work down the welfare, and I made them pots of stew. I rattled tins on the corners, fought a tear or two, but I laughed them back and I rallied for the fight that had to be. They could chase and catch and beat a man, but they can't do that to me. They can't do that to me, no. They can't do that to me. They could chase and catch and beat a man, but they can't do that to me. used to sit at us women was right behind our men, but down there on the picket we'd stand in front of them, and we'd sing our songs of freedom there for all the world to see. The good cheers and catch and beat a man, but they can't do that to me. I've just realised something, that because the way Facebook Live works, you're seeing everything in reverse, aren't you? Should we dedicate that to the BBC? Just a little bit of Orgreave going on there. Yeah, well, tribute to BBC journalists for doing such a great job of Orgreave. Right. Hatfield, Maine stayed loyal 100% until Free broke the strike in August of '84, and that brought the war home. A lot of mining communities went through this. They effectively lived under martial law for weeks on end because they had police from all over the country coming with riot shields and full-on gear, and they were taking no prisoners. And pitched battles raged through communities, and it happened to Stainforth and Dunscroft that August. And this is a song that charts that. It's called The Day the War Came Home. I think it's my favourite one, this one. It's kind of got from a musical point of view, it's got an interesting set of chords. If Matt Hill's watching, you know, he'll be going, yeah, that is an interesting set of chords, Joe, well done there. It is, just as an aside for all you songwriting people, it is quite an interesting set of chords. It shifts keys around a lot, and it's kind of nice, you know. Anyway, back to where we are. August 1984, waiting for a scab bus, top of the pit lane, just outside the pit club, line of armed police in front of you, hot summer's day. That's the scene. When was free had broken, so we waited in the lane to hassle those scab bus from behind a copper chain. Most in shorts and t-shirts sat out in the sun, when I heard Harry out behind me say, you better run. Oh, now Harry went no novice, and I didn't like his tone. On that day in August, when the war came home, in front of a line of riot coppers hammering their shields, behind the pit stood silent sentry out across the fields. When was we should sit down, and then they couldn't pick a fight, but them who'd been at Orgreave knew that something wasn't right. And we had our share of stitches, of bruised and broken bones. But on that day in August, when the war came home, when their line broke, I scampered faster than I thought I could. But them down at the front were trapped and lay in their own blood. Saw the ones they talked about, no numbers on their shoulders, uniforms that didn't fit who looked a lot like soldiers. And I knew in that moment this went just as straight no more. If she could stoop to send in men who'd kill a winner war. For days and nights the tires bend and glass smashed in this town, and the lamppost on the pit lane corner, a strong wind blew it down. I saw Katie lying, and I turned round to my wife. I said, this is what it takes now if you want a job for life. And to even make it this far, we sold everything we owned. But on that day in August, when the war came on that day in August, when the war came on. Right. Now then, this song was influenced by a telephone call I had with Mick Lanigan. I was about 6 songs into writing this record, and I tried to do it chronologically so that my head followed the strike, and I got a phone call one night from Mick where he says, oh well lad, it were a laugh and all. And you know, it is a great point, because part of a survival mechanism for working class people up and down this land is humour. And no matter how dark things get, we find some joy in it, we find some laughter in it. And so Mick basically set about telling me a whole bunch of stuff that happened, some of which I couldn't write into this song for legal reasons, and some of which I have written into this song, like the day they chased the chicken down the roadside. Caught said chicken, got it in back of transit van, all looked to one another. Nobody really had the heart to kill the chicken, nobody really knew how to kill the chicken, but they were that hungry. Anyway, let's be said, they didn't remain vegetarian that night. But all the other stuff in this song is true too. From the solidarity of the old dockers, who would go 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 with crates, and all of a sudden a couple might disappear, and in solidarity with striking miners, which is great stuff. And yes, the raid on the potato field, which caused so much ire to a farmer. This song is called Starve Us Back to Work. It's for Mick, for cheering us up that night, and for not knowing that while he was talking I was scribbling stuff down, and half an hour later I sent him a lyric which was basically this song, which was everything he'd just told me but rhyming. So you know, taking a songwriting credit, it's a bit much really for me, because Mick did this, all I did was make it rhyme. So it's also going out to Eagle and to Rachel, because I know that this is your fave, and every time I've gone down there to play it, I'm not able to say the N word, you know, the one that ends in Ottingham, in present company. But every time I've gone down there and I've gone over the border into that place, you know, you've asked for it, and bless you. This is called Starve Us Back to Work. By winter, well, the times were getting harder. There'd been nothing left in ladders for a while. We was felling trees for firewood and niddling tips for coal. There was always something there to make you smile. Like the day we chased the chicken down the roadside, or the dockers who would lose a crate or two, or the kids out there collecting on the corners. trying to scrape enough to see us through. They were driving empty buses past the pickets, trying to make us think that they were full, to make us see the strike were breaking. We was all they bother taking, yeah, knowing that we're red rag to a bull. On the day we went a raiding all them titties, in a fog so thick I couldn't see me fist. We ran into a brother, then another, then another. There was half of Yorkshire's miners in that mist. It wasn't really stealing, stuffing titties in a sack. It was kinda just like borrowing but never paying back. We were like a swarm of locusts and the farmer went berserk, but we couldn't let them starve us back to work. Christmas time we did us best for everyone, and they all well did turn into Santa Claus. Harry had his ambush by an errant pair of handcuffs, but the girls were sympathetic to the cause. We sang and sang and sang, you'll never walk alone, and I remember feeling 10 foot tall. We swore when full of bitter we could take another year, but there was some that said the writing's on the wall. It wasn't really stealing, stuffing titties in a sack, 'cause governments they borrow and they never pay it back. And we didn't steal a future and then drive off in a mech. We just wouldn't let them starve us back to work. We wouldn't let them starve us back to work. We wouldn't let them starve us back to work. Right, so sadly the strike did reach its conclusion almost exactly a year to the day that it started, in March of 1985, and there was one set of workers who, when the union called them back, got left out, and that was workers who'd been sacked during the strike. There was never an agreement reached to get them their jobs back, which was standard practice. And Hatfield, Maine had 3 such workers, one of which was Tony Clegg. Now, Will Moore told me the story of Tony and how he'd stood with him on picket lines right the way throughout the strike and wasn't reinstated at the end, and how he formed a one-man picket and they had to walk past him in the morning because they'd been called back to work and he didn't have a job. Now, I was virtually in tears on the phone with Will, and just the image of Tony, who was a brilliant bloke, on a one-man picket, just broke me, and I thought I had to write that song, you know, and so I phoned Tony and spoke to him about it all, and he was very kindly filled me in on a whole bunch of other details, and I wrote this song. And the first 2 verses had a voice of Will Moore, and the second 2 verses had a voice of Tony Clegg. And I know that when I sing this song, and when I've sung it for the Hatfield Brigade, I know Tony's really uncomfortable with this, like, because you know, it just doesn't sit with him, this kind of thing, this sort of tension, you know. But it's a story that needs telling, and it's a story that needs remembering, and you know, it was hard earned, and it should be told. So I'm going to tell it. It's a bit dark, but don't worry. There is a postscript on the other side of all this, and it casts some light on it. So just bear with us. This is called Last Man Standing, the Ballad of Tony Clegg. Now Tony Clegg had lost his job, something he didn't do, but he fought there at our shoulder, and he saw the struggle through. But when the union called us back, they said with heads held high, there was few could walk past Tony Clegg and look him in the eye. Now some of us was holding out through anger, guilt and shame, but the bosses had their win now, and they had their list of names. It was me who felt the scab now, like we'd left him high and dry. There was few could walk past Tony Clegg and look him in the eye. He said, I start the strike, a mining man, and I end it on the dole. There was 80 Jeff and me left, and on each it took its toll. When you'd been a striking miner, no job would take you on. Yeah, and at times just got at it, until one day I was gone. I ran a pub in Windsor, was a different world, and when I look back on this strike now, will I do it all again? The devil, well, I've seen her off. She played me for my soul, but you never bet against a man come from mining coal. The devil, well, I've seen her off. She played me for my soul, but you never bet against a man who come from mining coal. Right, I told you there was a postscript to that song, and there is. See, Tony Clegg's birthday is April the 8th. Now, sort of people with good memories will remember this. April the 8th has been an important day in mining communities up and down this land. You see, on the 8th of April 2013, Margaret Thatcher laid down and went and gave Tony Clegg the best birthday present he'd ever had. You see, 8th of April was a Monday, so Monday not being a great drinking day, Cleggy and assorted reprobates had decided to celebrate it on the Sunday, and they'd had a near heroic night on the beer, right? He'd left express instructions with his son that he was not to be disturbed before noon because, you know, he was nursing an almost legendary hangover. Now, in order to fully tell this story, I've got to do an impersonation of Tony Clegg with an hangover. Now, it's not meant in mockery. This is a tribute to a brilliant bloke and a monumental hangover. So, this is the scene. Monday, the 8th of April, 2013. Cleggy, curtains drawn, laid in bed, quietly groaning to himself in his sleep when the following happens. Dad, you've got to get up! If you're at all sensitive to language, block your ears up now. Dad, you've got to get up! Fuck off! Fuck off, I tell you! I told you I didn't want disturbing till after midday now. Fucking fuck off! Dad, you've got to get... Oh, what did I tell you? Fuck off, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Big night last night. Dad, you've got to get up. You've got to get up. At this point, exasperation perhaps set in, but this following happened. Will you fuck off? Dad, Thatcher's dead. Get me caught. And what ensued was the busiest Monday the Pit Club had ever had. And so now, although the song might suggest a little bit of mournfulness about Mr. Clegg, whenever Tony gets to celebrate a birthday, it has an added little bit of spice. And God did he earn it. That's for you, Clegg. Apologies for the impression. Right. I've just suddenly realised that doing an impression of Tony Clegg with an hangover is probably not conducive to singing a melody the next song afterwards. That might have been a faux pas, but we'll see. Right. This song has gone out to the entire Hatfield Brigade because I met them almost entirely by accident in the March of 2014. There was somebody down to do a turn at Pit Club as part of the 30th anniversary celebrations. He was a singer called John Lennon McCulloch, and he had a gig in Liverpool that night and didn't think he was going to be able to make both of them after all, and he pulled out at the last minute. And the Hatfield Brigade contacted Tony Wright, and Tony Wright said, try Joe. And so, with a couple of days' notice, I headed down to Stainforth to the Pit Club. On my Todd, to be honest with you, completely bricking it. Because, you know, it's a scary situation to walk into, as any new place, really. I mean, you always have a jangle of nerves when you go into any new place, but a new place where it's a community that tight, I thought I'd just be this idiot kid with a maraca in his shoe, and it would be a really tricky situation. But it couldn't have been further from the truth. I was welcomed so much, and honestly, I arrived there a stranger, and I left there feeling like I'd just got a new family. And I cannot pay tribute enough to the solidarity and to the friendship of the people of that community. They're absolutely brilliant. And when I and they asked me back to do the 30th anniversary of the end of the strike a year later, and I wrote this song for them. It's called The Long March Back, and it was the first song for this album. And we marched that day from the Broadway, the strike headquarters, back in the day, in Dunscroft, over the railway bridge, past the 17th brick, that by now, you know, it's probably actually in the statute books that is the demarcation line between Dunscroft and Stainforth, because Harry made it up, and if you repeat something often enough, then it becomes the truth, doesn't it? You know, that Murdoch proved that, didn't he? So the 17th brick, everyone, that's the partition between the two. It's probably going to get painted a different colour one day, with the letters HH on it or something like that, and in 200 years time people will wonder what that HH stands for, but all the rest of us will know that it stands for Harry Hall and his ability to take the piss. But anyway, we crossed the bridge and we marched up to the pit, and we marched back down again, and then up the old pit lane to the pit club where I sang this song. And it was one of the proudest days of my life to march with them people and sharing in their solidarity and sharing their pride, and rightful pride, at what they did, what they went through, what they endured, to try and halt what's now called neoliberalism, but was then called, I don't know, some swear words with Thatcher in the middle of them. But yeah, this song's called The Long March Back. When I march beneath that banner, it's with a sense of pride. My brothers and my sisters marching right here at my side. We're marching for the past, yeah, but it's for the future too. Came for us, they'll come for you. When I march beneath that banner, I know where I belong. So them as always at my back and struggle for so long to save our jobs, our homes, our families. Tell me, what else could we do? Came for us, they'll come for you. So I'm singing, fly the banner, fly the banner. They can take away our trade, but not the stand we made. So come on, fly the banner. I learned some good things though, I know beyond a doubt. If everybody pulls together, no one goes without. I know a little goes a long, long way, and used is good as new. They came for us, they'll come for you. So I'm singing, fly the banner, fly the banner. They can take away our trade, but not the stand we made. So come on, fly the banner. Beneath that banner, it's with a sense of pride that we never bust that pit lane scabbing for the other side. I know when fate it came a calling, we stood loyal, strong and true. They came for us, they'll come for you. So get singing, fly the banner. on, fly the planet high. Yeah, they can take away our trade, but not the stand we made. So come on, fly the planet high. Oh dear. That was a genuinely moving day, that, and unforgettable, absolutely unforgettable, and it kind of forms a loose kind of end to the strike stories, really. I'm going to sing you this song. It concerns like the little fella here that I've had stuck to my guitar, and you might have been wondering what that is, but that's for anybody wondering. See, this song tells the triumphant story, perhaps, of the picketing gnome of Hatfield, Maine. Now, the story varies according to who tells it. I have to admit, the personnel sometimes change, and the ins and outs of what went on. You know, yeah, it's a malleable story. It can be moulded to fit whatever, in the spirit of all good stories told after a few pints. But the long and short of it is, the picketing gnome of Hatfield, Maine wasn't always the picketing gnome of Hatfield, Maine. You see, during one of those flying picket strike excursions, one of those day trips, if you like, into Nottinghamshire, a working miner whose garden was adorned by a whole series of gnomes, for which he seemed to take great pride in. Well, as assorted Hatfield brigaders walked past his house, one of the gnomes, clearly totally disgruntled at the fact that his previous owner was breaking the strike, you know, and he joined the brigade. You know, this is kind of where the story gets a bit interesting, because some say that, yeah, he followed along and caught them up and jumped in the car with them. Others say he had a little bit of help. But regardless, what he ended up doing was leaving Nottinghamshire and travelling back to the pit club, where he set up on the bar, and you know, and where he joined the picket. For years after the strike had concluded, said picketing gnome of Hatfield, Maine, who never forgot his former master, would send postcards back to his old address from assorted holiday destinations around Europe and beyond. But such was the kindness of his heart, that, you know, he continued this communication for many years. Anyway, this is the story of the picketing gnome of Hatfield, Maine. And it's gone out to Les, who told me it. Stood above the working miner's door and all the shame. I was stolen in the dead of night but could not name the culprit. It were dark and so I can't be sure, but it sounded just like Brian Danes and Leslie Moore. I'm singing na 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 na, you can't catch me. Na 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 na, there's no law, you see. Na 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 na, making it a crime for a gnome to stop a scab crossing a picket line. Might have seen me down the pit club, sat up on the bar, Might have seen me on the telly, I was quite a star. Might have seen me going hungry when the strike took hold, but you never see me busting into my neck hole. I'm singing na 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 na, you can't catch me. Na 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 na, there's no law, you see. Na 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 na, making it a crime for a gnome to stop a scab crossing a picket line. Hey! I'm the picketing gnome of Hatfield, man. I was with the lads and lasses down the old pit lane. I sent a postcard home from everywhere I took off a plane. I'm the picketing gnome of Hatfield, man. And I would rather have a pint than I would a shot. And I'd rather be broke than I would be bought. I'd rather soar like an eagle than crawl like a crab. And I'd rather be a picket than a low down scab. I'm singing na 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 na, you can't catch me. Na 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 na, it's no law, you see. Na 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 na, making it a crime for a gnome to stop a scab crossing a picket line. I'm saying na 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 na, you can't catch me. Na 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 na, there's no law, you see. Na 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 na, making it a crime for a gnome to stop a scab crossing a picket line. We made it. Right, that kind of concludes the record. But a couple of years, well, when the record sold out, I'd done that many extra mining songs, and I'd done loads of recordings with the Hatfield Brigade. So I repressed it, but I repressed it with a bonus disc with our songs together on it and a whole bunch of other stuff on it. So the Never Be Defeated special edition is on my Bandcamp, and if you want to get it, the money from that does go straight to the community. I mean, this week we are raising, through Lockdown Solidarity, we're raising money for the DN7 Food Bank, and that's a food bank that serves the community around Hatfield, Maine. And so if you buy that record today or up to lunchtime tomorrow, the money will go straight to the DN7 Food Bank. I'm continuing with mining communities next week. So if you buy it after midday tomorrow, Lockdown Solidarity Week 11 starts, and the money will be going to East Durham Trust. So that's another former mining community up there. I say former mining community because it's just wrong, isn't it? Still mining communities. That's the thing. You realise pretty soon after you meet former miners that the former isn't really the thing, you know. See, a lot of them haven't been down a pit for decades now. A lot of those pits shut down in the 80s. A lot more shut down in the 90s, and yet all these years later, if you ask them what they did, they would describe themselves as a miner. And I said right at the top of the show that it goes right deep into your DNA, and it goes that deep, you know. I kind of the only other group of people that you see who are that tight are former servicemen, and if you've been shot at for a living, there's not many other people can understand what it felt like to be in that kind of level of peril. And so, you know, veterans associations exist so that former service men and women can be around people who understand their experiences. And so, you know, that is a thing, you know, that kind of bonding, that danger has bonded them together. But if you think about it, service people, some of them never go into a war zone. Some of them don't do the tours in Afghanistan or Basra or whatever, or the Falklands or any of the other places that people might have served, Northern Ireland, you know. They might experience peril. They might go into a war zone, but it's only a fraction of their career, you know, a few months maybe, and yet if you're a miner, you'll go into that mortal peril every single day of your working life. and that binds you tight. And I love to see that. I love to see that solidarity, because it reminds me of what we should all have, what we should all be, because that's the only way we're ever going to win anything back. It's the only way we'll get decent pay, it's the only way we'll get decent conditions, it's the only way we'll get decent housing, it's the only way we'll be treated fairly. It's the only way our communities will start to gel and start to thrive again, is if we stick together. And so I absolutely love to see that it's inspirational. That said, I have to say that having been designated the official bard of the Hatfield Brigade, it's not always my job to chart the legendary escapades, the stuff that medals are awarded on in other spheres of life. Sometimes I also have to chart the stuff that's kind of less salubrious. And this song, has its anniversary today, really. See, I can't remember if it's 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but at the Orgreave March, this happened. Mick Lanigan, who's usually in charge, overseer, if you like, of the erection of the Hatfield Brigade banner, was unable to make it. And so it was left to assorted brigaders to assemble said banner. So a great big cardboard tube, upturned, banner flops out, a few poles, a few bits of string, the main event. How hard can it be, they think? Now, I wasn't there. I was late that day. So I only have this second hand. But it came from a reliable source in Harry Hall. I mean, Harry's never one for exaggeration, as you know. He's somebody who's cast iron truth right the way along the line. And Harry told me this, and so, I felt that I must tell it. See, it wasn't as successful as it might have been. And this is the story of the Hatfield marching banner. They can hear the call from down below, the many could not do. They can stay on strike a year or more and see the bugger through. They're the finest friends you'll ever have, but one thing's sadly true. Give 'em 6 poles and a banner, and they haven't got a clue. There was 4 on the left and 2 on the right, and then 1 on the left, and 5 on the right, and then 2 on the left, and 4 on the right of the Hatfield marching banner. You get the picture. The first time that they hauled her up was at 45 degrees. So the marrow on the left he had to march down on his knees. The second time looked better, but they raised her up and found the poor old Rosa Luxembourg were hanging upside down. There was 2 on the left and 4 on the right, and then 1 on the left and 5 on the right, and then 4 on the left and 2 on the right of the Hatfield marching banner. There was men from every Yorkshire pit had gathered round to see how long they'd take to calculate that half of 6 were free. To you, to me, they cried as one, till at last, without a care, and some ropes and stuff left over. She were raised up in the air. There was 2 on the left and 4 on the right, and then 5 on the left and 1 on the right, and then 4 on the left and 2 on the right of the Hatfield marching banner. Yeah, I'm safe this year because they've cancelled Durham. But the year after I wrote that song, I did find myself dangling upside down off it. So ever since then, I've been very careful to make sure I was carrying a pole of a banner when we crossed the bridge. Thankfully, you know, a full, proper, even length pole. The punchline to that story is when they came to wrap the banner up and collapse the poles and fold the banner up, they picked up the cardboard tube it came in, and just a piece of paper fluttered, you know, ever so gently, like a pissed butterfly, down to the ground, and you know. And they all gathered round it, you know, gathered round it. A whole bunch of them looking down at this one piece of paper on the floor with a single word written across the front: instructions. Anyway, this this is a totally different change of story. See, it's important to tell these stories not just because they are important bits of history and they're important bits of working class history that we should all know. They will never be taught in schools, but we should know this stuff off by heart because this is our history, not kings and queens and generals' history that they want you to know. This is our history, working class history, and if we don't know it, if we don't teach ourselves it, we'll forever be ignorant, and every generation will go through the same struggles again and again without ever being able to see a way through them. So it's important to know this stuff, and the reason I write songs about these things is because of the emotional connection they make. I think it's important that even if you don't necessarily agree with the politics of a situation, that you can empathise with it on a human level because you can feel the emotions that people went through, and that helps you gain a level of understanding, and that level of understanding gives you another level of knowledge, and that level of knowledge helps you understand that we are all bound in ways that not many people understand, and we need to know that we are bonded like that, and it's important to. This song has a sad beginning because as long as I've known Mick, his wife Sandra had been struggling with cancer, and a couple of years ago she left us, and I had the great honour of being asked to sing at Sandra's funeral. Now, Sandra Lanigan was just amazing, like a rock of the community. She was full of wisdom and full of advice, and she would help anyone and she would guide anyone, and she was just a brilliant woman. And this is basically the story of Mick and Sandra, and it's quite a difficult one to sing, so I'm just going to kind of crack on and sing it. But it's called Keep the Faith because they caught it through the Northern Soul years, and anybody who was a part of that scene will know why it's called Keep the Faith. From Wigan dance halls powdered down and all night Northern Soul, until the day that pitfall put me on the rock and roll. We had good times, we had bad times, but we always made it through. Now I keep the faith for you. Have the devil and the Irish rebel burning in my blood. That's what Sister Agnes said, I'll never be no good. Oh boy, your smile, it lit up the world and made it all brand new. Now I keep the faith for you. So they hung that plaque upon the wall of memories in this room, where the sun will shine back off it on a summer's afternoon. Yeah, and I hope someone finds your strength to see this struggle through. Now I keep the faith for you. Yes, I keep the faith. I keep the faith for you. That's going out to Mick, because I know it was Sandra's birthday this week. I know that's always a tough day for him. Well, it's also going out to Jamie and to Kerry and Carl and the kids, and just with profound respect to the lot of you. Love you to bits. Right. It's always kind of tricky at the best of times, climbing in and out of these kind of wells of emotion. You know, you move from one thing to another without changing gear, and it's what wears you out. I found myself just absolutely knackered after the previous two gigs, because just sort of mining these emotions inside you while you're singing these songs and shifting gear and changing and moving between them. It's just phenomenal. It takes a lot out of you. At actual gigs, you know, the adrenaline carries some of that away from you, and you know you can get through it a lot easier. But it's absolutely knackering doing it to silence, you know. And I know some of you are probably out there, but I can't see, so you might have all gone home. But I'm going to finish the gig anyway, because I'm a pro. Right, for those of you who do know, since 2016, every year, me and the Hatfield Brigade have got together and we've recorded a song. We've formed an ad hoc choir of brigaders, family and friends, and assorted people have travelled from all over the country to lend their voices, and we crowd around a microphone and we sing songs that yeah, and it's a really brilliant day. It's my favourite day of the year, and it's always been at Central Club, and we've lost Central over the last few months. So this is going out to Dean and to everybody who made us so welcome at Central. And I sincerely hope that we can find somewhere else that we can do this, and we'll be allowed to gather and make a song this year. If not, we'll make one next year, and we'll find somewhere, you know. But this was a song we put out in 2017, our second one. Our first one was a big Christmas song, and it was great. We flash mobbed the Doncaster shopping centre. We got to sing on stage with Jeremy Corbyn, and it was all kinds of madness went on that year. At one stage I think we were 25-1 for Christmas #1, and outselling the Pogues and Kirsty MacColl on Amazon briefly. But it was great fun, and the last was not to be. We didn't make the top 200 or anything else, probably not even the top anything. But it was ace fun. But this one was the second year. It's a song called "They Could Not Break This Town," and it's about pit communities, about that solidarity I've spoken of, how people stick together through thick and through thin, and at its heart is a lesson that I think we kind of all need to know as a movement, I think, but as a country we need to learn this lesson, that that sometimes politics isn't what you read and what you learn and what you're told. It's something you feel. If you're working class and you're in a working class community, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about here. You feel that inequality every single day of your working life. You feel it. You feel how hard it is to keep putting food on the table. You feel how hard it is to keep putting a roof over your head. You're not looking at the work necessarily through a dialectical Marxist framework, but you've got it on instinct. You know it because you feel it in your heart. You feel that struggle to keep your wage high enough to make it from one end of the year to the other. The struggle to wring an ounce of dignity from every working day. It's in your bones. And when you look around at politicians, to be honest with you, you can see that no matter what happens, what changes, your life, your experiences, your day-to-day experiences of fighting for all those things does not change, no matter whose colour tie there is. You know, it does incrementally, day by day. I'm not suggesting for a minute there are marked differences between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, but what I'm saying is that if you don't follow the news rigidly, your experiences of living in this country under neoliberalism, no matter who's in charge, is exactly the same. It is a battle to get from one end of the year to the other with enough money and enough dignity to sustain yourself. It's not enough that people say, oh, you know, they haven't read enough books, they're not clever enough. You know, that's bollocks. We feel politics. We feel it in our hearts. It beats through our veins. And that is why those towns, those villages, wouldn't break back in a strike. It's right there. Instinct. Feeling politics. Not reading it, feeling it. And that's what this song is kind of about. Right, there's a join in bit. I sing a line, you sing No Way Never. I sing another line, you sing No Way No. I sing 3 more lines, you sing No Way No again. Job's a good one. Dead easy. Don't know why it took about 12 hours to record it with the brigade, but for some reason it did. But it was fun, every last second of it. So, if you're ready, it goes like this. This city got us beaten down. No way, never. This city got us beaten down. No way, no. This city got us beaten down. They don't know a mining town. This city got us beaten down. No way, no. They say our spirit's broken now. No way, never. They say our spirit's broken now. No way, no. They say our spirit's broken now, but we'll never beg and never bow. They say our spirit's broken now. No way, no. So flying a planet high again, and where's the glass and toast to when they beat us up and pulled us down, but it could not break our line and talk. Na 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 na, hey hey, na 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 na, hey hey, na 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 na, hey hey. They could not break this town. this is the last verse, right? So those of you singing along, and I know there'll be a few of you out there because you just can't help yourself because it's past 3 o'clock, and I know that, you know, it's instinct after that to sing along anyway, isn't it? So, right, to really knuckle down into this, you kind of got to dig down for your punk rock voice, right? For those of you who haven't had this explained to them before, your punk rock voice is the other voice that you have inside you as a human being. The first one, that's the come by ya voice. That's the gentle one where you might have been going, no way, never, no way, no. That voice doesn't change things, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends. The punk rock voice is the voice that changes things. The punk rock voice comes from the pit of your stomach and it rises up through your chest, engaging your heart, your soul, your spirit, your intellect, en route to your mouth, where it comes out as one defiant roar that says, in the words of Woody Guthrie, I ain't gonna be treated this way. That is the voice we're gonna use to sing this last verse. Not just as a memory of struggles past, but as a signal of struggles to come. Are we ready? I said, are we ready? That's so weird when I can't hear you. This here wounds will heal with time. No way, never. This here wounds will heal with time. No way, no. This here wounds will heal with time, but our ghosts will learn that picket line. This here wounds will heal with time. No way, no. So fly to planet high again, and raise a glass and toast to when they beat us up and pulled us down. They could not break our mind in time. Na 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 na, hey, hey. Na 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 na, hey, hey. Na 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 na, hey, hey. They could not break this town. No, they could not break this town. Right, I've got one more song to do and then I'm going to finish. Thank you for sticking around tonight. I'm really glad that we could have some kind of Orgreave rally this year. I'm really proud to play a part in that. I've supported them right away from the start, and I will continue to support them until we get justice. And I hope that you've enjoyed Never Be Defeated being sung in this environment, and I hope you've got something out of those songs. There's a GoFundMe that's probably been shared on the page here. Half of the money that that you donate on the GoFundMe will go to the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign. The other half will go towards building Hatfield Main Miners Memorial Garden at the site of the old picket line, at the top of the old pit lane, and that'll be a brilliant legacy to leave behind. And it would be fantastic if you've got a few quid and you can spare it and throw it in there. That'd be fantastic. If you want to buy merch, you know, CDs and t-shirts and things like that, the money tonight and up to lunchtime tomorrow is going to the DN7 food bank. So that is serving the community. After midday tomorrow, it's going to East Durham Trust. a big shout out to my comrades up there, especially involved in a women's banner group up there. It's going to be great to see everybody again on the other side of this, and so many amazing people that I miss when these things are cancelled. So losing with banners held high, and losing and losing Orgreave and losing Durham are horrific. So I'm glad that we can do some of this, at least in part. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks tonight, July the 4th, with another all request show live from Shed 4. We've got some emergency funding issues with Hull Trade Union comrades, some of whom are on the verge of losing their homes because of work issues relating to COVID, and we're doing a solidarity gig for them. So that's 2 weeks tonight, July the 4th, so it'd be great to have your support then. For now though, I'm going to leave you in the only way that is fitting to leave you, and that is with the words of a striking miner, the words of Mick Lanigan. His voice closes the CD, and his words are going to close tonight. I thank you. Come ye bold men of Hatfield, men, the last shift's drawn and clear. You'll have to change your language, lads, you'll have to change your cheer, and leave the pit behind you, boys, you'll ne'er see it again. Stabbed in the back by Nottingham and Robin's merry men. We followed dads and their dads too, on giant shoulders rode, as men descended underground to hew a nation's call. Our way of life, a memory now, our numbers dwindle fast, but memories of a mining town will forever live and last. The pitted baths are silent now, the canteen's brewed its last. No planning for the future now, just memories of the past. So leave the face behind you, boys, you'll ne'er crawl in again. Stabbed in the back by Nottingham, and faceless traitors them. The headgears now stand sentinel o'er fields of green. A big wheel that'll turn no more will tell our tale, it seems, of men who toiled underground, of men who fought and died, of men who stood for 12 long months against industrial genocide. Come ye bold men of Hatfield, men, the last ship's drawn and clear. You'll have to change your language, lads, you'll have to change your cheer, and leave that pit behind you, boys, you'll ne'er see it again. Stabbed in the back by Nottingham and Robin's merry men. So, was the miners' strike the last stand of the working class? Or is that just a coward's words? Somebody who lacks the courage to dust themselves down and start again. Because there's two leaders of that strike, I'll tell you. It's not the winning or the losing. It's the fight that counts. And they'll stop chasing when you stop running. So, I've never really been that much interested in the last stand of the working class. I'm interested in the next one.